Hmm?
Oh, hello.
Huh?
My name is Crane M2. Down here. Yeah, people call me tiny and cute, but I do pack a heck of a punch. Not to mention, I can film with almost any small camera you throw at me. Like this one, or even this one. Yep, long as they are around 720 grams and below. Want to see what I can do? Let me show you.
You know, if I didn't film those, I would not have guessed all those smooth shots came from this tiny little gimbal. What is going on, everyone? Today we're taking a look at a very unique all-in-one small gimbal called Crane M2 by Zhiyun. Oh, I should mention that Zhiyun did send me this gimbal to review. Yeah, I know guys, this is my first product sponsor video. It's unreal, but I'm still gonna try to keep it as unbiased as possible. I mean, I did tell them if I find anything bad, I ain't gonna talk about it. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this gimbal, as well as a couple of unique findings. The biggest pro of this gimbal to me is the obvious one. This gimbal is tiny. I mean, this opens up so much more creative possibilities. I'm able to fit this gimbal into holes that I never imagined a gimbal would fit, like a gutter or in between statue's legs. You get the picture, literally. Being so tiny, you can also easily raise this gimbal way up high in the air with the monopod. Yeah, I thought the Weeble Lab was light. I was waving around my monopod and I had to do a double take. It's like, is my gimbal still up there? Yeah, fake crane shot without your arms shaking? Yes, please. So you're thinking, okay, what did they remove to make this gimbal so small and light? Which brings me to the next point. The second thing that stood out to me is that Zhiyun didn't skim on any of the modes, even though they shaved a lot of weight, size, and even buttons. Now you only have this one M button that controls all the modes. That also declutters the whole entire gimbal grip. By single or double tapping the M button, you get all the gimbal modes available like on a full-size gimbal, like pan, follow, lock, POV, vortex, and go mode. Oh yeah, and there's more. If you hold down the trigger button while you're on a pan follow mode or lock mode, it engages the follow mode. That's how I was able to pull off that tilt up move while walking straight with the pan follow mode. For vlogging though, if you tap the trigger button 3 times, the camera actually faces you. And the wonderful thing is, I don't have to go into an app to activate any like hidden modes. It's all available directly on the gimbal right out of the box, like this push pan mode. And speaking of right out of the box, I have to talk about the seamless Wi-Fi app and the camera connectivity right out of the box. I'll be honest guys, when I fire up that ZY Play app on my iPhone, I was a little nervous. If you guys watched my Weeble Lab reviews, I didn't have the best experience with the app, and many of you guys like share the same experience. I'm so excited. Zhiyun has finally put a lot of effort in making this app actually work, and hopefully this is a pattern. Not only does the phone connect to the gimbal right away, wait for it, the gimbal connects to the camera's Wi-Fi. You just scan the barcode from your camera's Wi-Fi menu and boom, you don't need a special cable to be able to hit record button directly from the gimbal or even use the zoom button. And get this, after the gimbal connects to your camera once, you don't even need your phone to connect to your camera's Wi-Fi again. The gimbal remembers all your previous Wi-Fi connections. This is a game changer guys for vlogging. Since the camera is facing you, you don't want to be like reaching around the camera every time you have to hit a record button. I can't speak on behalf of other camera manufacturers, but my Sony RX100 Mark V-A and Sony a6400 connected without any issues. So how much weight can this gimbal really handle? I can tell you for its size, the motors do pack a punch. On paper, this gimbal supports up to 720 grams. To give you a perspective, Sony a6400 with 10 to 18mm lens weighs around 630 grams, which is approaching close to the max payload, but it never felt like gimbal was struggling. I even put on a heavier Sigma 16mm f1.4, which pushes the total weight to like 808 grams. The issue then becomes that when you tilt up or down hard, the bottom of the base plate hits the motor. Even at above the max payload, the gimbal performed just fine in a straight line, and the motor didn't really vibrate at all in full motor power setting. In fact, it works so well, I brought this gimbal to 2 of my client jobs as a second gimbal. It's not recommended that you put on a heavier setup than the max capacity, and don't get me wrong, this is not a full-size power gimbal, but I wanted to demonstrate that the motor does have plenty of power for small camera setups and some of the creative moves that you're trying to pull off. Before we talk about the bat, I want to show you a couple unique findings with this gimbal. As you've probably already seen on other videos, this gimbal does have object tracking feature when using a phone as a camera. What's cool about it though is that it actually supports front-facing camera, which makes filming yourself so much easier. I was able to draw a square around my face as I looked at the screen, and it tracked me sideways and back and forth movements fairly well. One more unique thing I noticed that has to do with the phone holder. First, this is a very high quality aluminum, but most importantly, they designed this so that phone holder mounts from the bottom and not the back. So why is this so important? This allows you to mount a wide angle phone lens without the motor or the holder getting in your shot. Something to note, since wide angle phone lens attachments it is getting popular, like fanny packs. They're coming back. Okay, now for the drawbacks. The biggest issue I had with this gimbal was the way quick release plate blocks my Camry battery door. Most point and shoot camera and Sony APS-C camera's battery compartment is on the left side, like this RX100 or this A6400. I'm very much of a run and gun style, and having to remove the base plate each time I had to change the battery, this slowed me down, since essentially I had to rebalance the tilt axis every time I changed the battery or even take out the SD card out in these Sony cameras. Second thing I did not like initially was that there is no replaceable gimbal battery. I'm a little spoiled by Weeble Lab replaceable batteries, where I always bring an extra pair in case I run out. Originally, I took a note of this as a drawback, but however, once I fully charged the battery and ran around Washington DC all day with my A6400, I still had about 50% battery left. The battery is rated at 7 hours, but if you balance your gimbal very well and if you turn it off when you're not actually using it, yeah, this thing can actually last day or two. The last drawback of this gimbal wasn't my opinion, but I wanted to address some reviews that talks about how this 3-axis locking mechanism is really just 1-axis locking. That may be true, since there's only 1 axis lock and the other 2 axes is held by this groove and a small pin. To lock all the axes, you do have to undo this roll axis to lock it inside the groove. This method does allow me to transport the gimbal in a nice tight format, but surprisingly, it does allow me to resume the setup very quickly. There's this tiny little memory lock that remembers where your roll adjustment was. Since the only adjustment that got undone is the roll axis, everything just falls into where it needs to be very quickly. To me, that's fast enough as a run and gun gimbal. You're probably wondering at this point, what about for vlogging? Well, and for vlogging, this thing is so easy to carry. It's so tiny. I mean, it just feels like it's just part of your limb, because look at this. Yeah. In brief, it's great for small cameras like RX100, but I'm actually gonna doing another whole separate video for Crane M2 vlogging. Okay, it's official, so I can tell you guys. So I have been accepted to go to Sony's camera camp, guys. It's hosted by iJustine, and some of my favorite YouTubers will be there. It's smack in the middle of my busiest season though, so I need something that will just work and simple for use for vlogging. And that's what this gimbal is. It's not overly complicated, it's easy to transport, and it's simple to use. For me, sometimes creativity comes from those 3 things, and ability to just stick your gimbal in holes that just regular gimbal cannot go through. Hey, you'd be surprised what kind of possibility that opens up. I visit Washington DC all the time, but with this gimbal, it was entirely new place to explore and film all of a sudden. So that's my thought today, guys. As usual, I'll hang out in the comment section for the next couple of days, so let me know your thoughts on this gimbal or ask me any questions. And if you're interested in this gimbal, I'll leave a product link in the description below. Check out the most recent price, guys, but for that price, this gimbal is hard to beat with all kinds of features. On that note, thanks for being part of this journey, guys. Hope to see you in the next video. Later.